Hi guys, welcome back to the Book Haven with Rachel and Raven. I hope that you guys have had an amazing summer, but it is that time of year where it is time to dive into all things school and routine and those types of things. So I'm excited about this episode. Hopefully something that we share today will inspire you if you're a homeschool mom, or even if you're not. Like, some of these books are not just meant for homeschoolers. All right. Without further ado, I'm going to let Rachel go first because she probably has one of the most popular books among the homeschooling community, and it's a great one. So,
yes,
take it away, Rachel.
When we were going back and forth with what books we were going to include on this list, I had two, and I actually only own one. So I thought I would talk about Teaching from Rest, which has kind of got a glare. But this is Sarah Mackenzie. I feel like most people know about this book in the homeschooling world. If you are homeschooling and have not read this book, like, you need to stop what you're doing and go read it. It's very, very short. Yeah. Like, you can read this in an afternoon. I actually read it for the first time in a homeschooling co-op group that I was in. All of the moms read it. And so we kind of did it like a book club thing. And it was so much fun to talk about kind of through with somebody. But I know people that read this one every year. It's a homeschooler's guide to unshakable peace. And coming from, I only knew one person growing up who homeschooled. And that was my aunt, and they were missionaries. And so they lived very far away, and I never saw them, like, how it was day to day. And so going into homeschool, I had no idea what I was doing. And, it felt very chaotic. I think this is common for most people, but when you start homeschooling, you try to make it school at home. So you want to do the desk and the posters and all this stuff. This book really helped me see and get a vision for what homeschool actually is and can be, and how beneficial it is to do it from you as the mom or the parent, whoever's homeschooling, grandma. When you do it from your strengths and do it in a way that is life-giving to you, it completely changes how you interact with your kids.
Yeah.
And so it so changed the course of how we homeschooled and how I felt about homeschooling, and stuff like that. So I cannot recommend this one enough. So the second one I was going to talk about is called The Core, and it's by Leah Bortons. She is the founder of Classical Conversations, which is a homeschooling, I don't even know mega co-op, but it is a program that's across the country for homeschooling, and everybody's doing the same curriculum on the different levels and stuff like that. So that's what our family has chosen to do for a long, long time. And The Core is one of her books that talks about the classical education model. And so I'm not sharing it to kind of plug CC, although I would if you asked me to. I am sharing it because, and I'm sure we're going to get into it, but when you start diving into the world of homeschooling, you notice that there are a lot of paths that you could choose, different ways that you can do it. There's classical, there's Montessori, there's eclectic, there's just a whole bunch of different unschooling. There's a whole bunch of different paths that you can take. So The Core is about the classical model of education, of home. I mean, really, it's just education, but also in the realm of homeschooling. So if you're interested in kind of reading about different types of homeschooling, veins that you can go down, I would recommend that one. I think she does a really good job of kind of laying out the model of classical, why you would choose classical, who would maybe benefit from it, kind of thing. So, okay, those are my two.
Yeah. Yay! All right, let's get started. Okay. For my first one, I cannot find the one that I would highly recommend. I don't know if I loaned it out, but it's For the Children's Sake by Susan Schaefer.
Okay.
Who is the daughter of Francis Schaeffer. If you don't know, if you don't know who they are, you should look them up. Highly right. That's just a little plug for them. But that book is what changed my whole thinking on just kids in general and how they learn and why family is so important and just a lot. She talks a lot in that book, particularly about Charlotte Mason. She homeschooled her children. I believe that she was homeschooled Susan Schaefer. Anyways, it's just a great book all the way around. It is it's lengthy, and it is, the way she writes is not, easy like Teaching from Rest, but is very, very good. And I would say for me, it was a really great slow marinade for me to just understanding kids in general. And I'm trying to think back. I read that book after I read a Sally Clarkson book. So she recommended, because I guess that book changed her whole thought process as well. And so that's what led me to that book, to read that book. And I read that book before I homeschooled, and it is what I felt the confidence that I could do it after reading that book. So I highly recommend that. I'm going to have to find out where that book is, because it's one of my favorites, and I don't normally loan that one out. So I don't know if someone might have. I probably just misplaced it. But anyways, okay. Speaking of Sally Clarkson, I will go ahead and talk about this one. This one, like Rachel was saying, a lot of times when we start out on our homeschooling journey, I did it, and I was homeschooled. I did the whole thing, set up the classroom, set up the board, everybody's chairs, made everybody sit like little robots. It was really ridiculous. But anyways, this is another one of those books that helps you think outside of the box, helps you think and teach to your kids' strengths, but also developing their weaknesses. And so this one is just beautiful. If you had never read anything Sally Clarkson, she really talks a lot about thinking outside of the box, about really just enjoying life with your kids, because I think sometimes as homeschoolers, we can get so caught up in this, like the teacher role, that we forget that we're actually doing life with them. And so we read this one in a book club. I think we've talked about it before, but we read this one in a book club, and it was a lot of fun, a lot of encouragement. And also, y'all know me, I took the jacket off, and I don't know, but look how pretty. This is actually the book.
Yeah. So
I thought it was really pretty. Okay, moving right along. Okay. This is one that is not necessarily like one you would read through, although if you're really interested in like reading to your kids more and even building your library, I would highly recommend this book. There is like the first half of the book, I would say, she does talk a lot about why is it important to read aloud to your kids. She talks about the different genres and things like that. And then like the second half is a book list. And so this was one of the first books that I got when I decided to homeschool. That's what I'm trying to think. And so what it has is it'll have like a book, but then it'll have other books that author has written to underneath it that she recommends. And so it goes all the way up till like, and she has other ones. She has like Honey for a Woman's Heart. So like a book list for women.
And that one is called what?
Honey for a Child's Heart. So I think if you're just starting out, this is one that I would put on my shelf. I know that you can like get online now, and there's lots of book lists and stuff, but I really liked this, and I still like it. I don't reference it as often anymore, but
Well,
It's a
and
good
I
one.
think that kind of goes into the episode that we had last week with Rachel and talking about how
Mm-hmm.
she would find an author and kind of go off of that. And we talked about Read Aloud Revival, which is the same lady who wrote, Sarah Mackenzie, who wrote Teaching from Rest. Do you have her other
Mm-hmm.
book in your pile?
I do. Which is Read Aloud Revival.
Yes.
And yes, so she has this, it's kind of set up the same way,
Yeah.
maybe. Yeah, she talks a lot about the importance of reading aloud to your kids, but not just reading aloud, but also just like other books to, give your kids, send them off with or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the one where she talks more about reading aloud. That's what it is. And the importance of reading aloud, and kind of some of the common questions that we talked about with Rachel last week about what do your kids do while they read aloud. This one right here is a great one. It's really practical, but if you've never been in this world before, if it's all very new for you, highly recommend this book. She gives a lot of great suggestions, and yeah,
and that one's
highly
good.
recommend that one.
That one's good, and I feel like probably the honey for the child's heart too. Those are not just for homeschooling people.
Yeah,
Like
no.
you can get ideas from
Yeah.
that just to read aloud to your kids.
Yeah, for sure. And I would strongly encourage you to do that, even if your kids aren't homeschooled, because I mean, it's a proven fact that families who read together, and especially the parents who are readers, it encourages that type of environment. And I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's I know it's very, very beneficial to your children.
Yeah.
In whatever schooling setting that they are.
Yeah.
Okay, so when I started out too, I read For the Children's Sake, and then I moved over and read Karen Andreola's book, The Charlotte Mason Companion. So I kind of started off going down I've never adhered to one schooling method or another. I am a very hodgepodge person.
It's
I
called
take
eclectic.
Yes. Okay, so I'm eclectic. But I have a different visual when I think of that word. So I think I'm more of a hodgepodge.
Okay.
I'm a little bit of anyways. Maybe I am eclectic, but I started out wanting to be like hardcore Charlotte Mason, but I also, and I didn't pull that book up here, wanted to be, I liked some of the classical stuff as well, like the classical model of things. Not super, I was never super rigid on that with like the classical model. So please don't message me or call me or ask me randomly on the street about the classical model, because I am not going to be able to give it to you. I just pulled things that I liked from there. And that's, and I ended up even evolving from that. But I started out reading Charlotte Mason Companion, which is just, I don't know, it's a lot. This is kind of what I started out with, learning about Charlotte Mason. So if that's something that interests you, and I would say also in the beginning of learning to homeschool or desiring to homeschool, learn about the different methods, because you're going to find what works for you. For me, it's a little bit of everything. But for some people, sticking with the Charlotte Mason, like hard, all the way through, that's what works for them. And so for me, I just learned about a lot of different models, a lot of different ways of doing it, because I had to figure out what worked for me. This one I found super interesting. And this is another one that just built my confidence that I could do this. I would say the best thing that I gathered out of this was getting out in nature. And so that is what, in doing nature walks, this is one of the books that really encouraged me to do that. And I gained a lot of confidence doing that. So that was like the takeaway from Charlotte Mason, is we did a lot of nature study. So Okay, let's go for another one. This one is Mere Motherhood. I read this kind of years into my homeschooling journey. I really liked it. I really like Cindy Rollins. Rollins. She is. There are different homeschoolers who can sometimes seem untouchable or maybe out of touch with reality.
Mm-hmm.
Not naming any names, but sometimes there are some people like that. Or they just seem like they have it all together. She is so real, so honest, so vulnerable about homeschooling. I think like in the midst of like hard times.
Mm-hmm.
So their family went through a lot of things, and just how she navigated that, how she maintained a routine, how she continued to homeschool with almost nothing. You know, there was a point, I think, in our homeschooling journey where, I mean, their curriculum was a library card.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, that was it. Like, that was it. And I think they might have had a math program, but like, she didn't, I don't know. I think there were just a lot of struggles. I'll say it that way. And this one was encouraging to me in that way. So it's not just homeschooling. It's about motherhood. It's
Mm-hmm.
about routines and things like that. Well, the bottom of it says morning times, nursery rhymes, and my journey towards sanctification. So um, it was just that was encouraging to me because there was a time when our family we were going through some really difficult times, and people were like, throw in the towel, it's
Yeah.
too hard, what are you doing, like make things easier on yourself. And I'm like, that's the last thing on my mind. I'm gonna do it. Like, I'm gonna figure out how to do it in the midst of the storm. So
I think that's
anyways, highly recommend
a
that.
good point too, because I feel like we also had a time um that we went through where it was very hard, and I had people just saying, just put them, like, if you just put them in school, that would relieve so much stress from your life. Just do that. It'll be, like, that will help reduce what's going on. And I didn't, but I feel like everybody, or I wonder if everybody kind of has some point in your journey where you just go, eh. I mean, yes, it would be easier, but I'm gonna stick it out. And
Yeah,
there's
I
no judgment and shame if you put your kids in school,
no
because sometimes that's the right path too. Um,
yeah
but just you saying that, I was kind of like, oh, I wonder if everybody has that point where you
yeah
go, yeah,
Yeah. And yeah, you're right. Like, I think for everybody, it's different for everybody, but it also seems like it's like that's the first thing to go if things get rocky,
yeah,
and
yeah,
in family life and things like that. Where I think for me, I feel like, and she talks about it too in there, it was part of her sanctification process,
yeah,
like learning how to navigate in the midst of that, of the chaos that was going on. And also, it created stability for me and routine and stability for my kids during that
yeah,
time. So while everything around us seemed to be going nutso,
yeah,
I could always pull my kids in for like a read aloud or
yeah.
um, yeah. And I just we could do a whole podcast on that. I think that maybe we should talk about that. But anyways, yeah, so she's real. She's very honest. I feel like she's brutally honest. Um and it's good. So that's just one for great encouragement, and that's not just for homeschoolers either. This one I would say is more motherhood.
Yeah.
Um and I still love her. Um Okay, and then another one. This is not a read through book, but this is one that was encouraging to me as far as kind of like where my kids should be each year. So I didn't use this as um, like a checkbox or anything like
Okay.
that. I would just kind of look at it, and be like home learning year by year.
Okay.
And so basically it's preschool through high school of kind of like milestones educationally that your kids should be at. Like, let's use that loosely
Yes.
because all children are different. But it's really good. And it also has helped me in the years of like when I'm school planning, if I'm kind of coming up short on something, I'll pull this one out and kind of be like, okay, maybe it gives curriculum suggestions as well.
Oh, yeah.
And so that has helped me. I use this, I will say I have used this every year when school planning. Although this year is kind of different. I'm just kind of, it's kind of weird how things are working out for this year. I'm kind of like,
Yeah.
I am not spending as much time planning because it's kind of, once they get like junior high and high school, you kind of already know
Yeah.
what they need to do. And it's just, I don't know, it's different. It's weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Another great one that I will plug, and it's a short one, is by Tina Hollenbeck and Kathy Koch. I can't ever remember how to say her name.
I can't ever remember.
Okay. Kathy Koch. I think it's Kathy Koch.
Or Koch,
No, it's
right?
Yes. And I know so many people with that last name and they all pronounce it different. But anyways, this is talking about the 8th grade smarts of kids. And so this is another one where this is more of like you learn your 8th grade smarts. She has another one that is just eight grade smarts, and you learn a lot about yourself, like how you learn, which I would also recommend for, and so if you want to dive into how you learn, it's probably going to help you with your teaching and like just your homeschool in general, because you are going to teach using your strengths. But then I would also recommend this one as well, learning more about your kids too in your homeschool environment. So the 8th grade smarts are, I am body smart, I am logic smart, music smart, nature smart, people smart, picture smart, self smart, and word smart. And she dives into each one of those. And, some people learn more. I mean, let me pick one out here. So like, I feel like I'm word smart. Maybe not. It says explain, summarize. I'm really not good at summarizing and defending, but I have a child who is word smart. And so by learning how their brain works, you learn better how to interact with that person. So, and those also can change over time.
Yeah, you talking about that reminds me too of just an instance. And I feel like, I don't know where I picked this up from. I'm sure it was a book, but I don't know what book. But I know, for instance, I do not speak my kids' math language. So me trying to do math with them is like just me hitting my head against a brick wall. They don't understand what I'm saying. I don't understand how they don't understand what I'm saying. And I can't figure out how to explain it in a different way. And I feel like as soon as I figured that out, that it wasn't me and it wasn't them. It was just that we were communicating on 2 separate levels. That was very, very helpful. And moving forward from that point, I realized that they were going to need somebody else to explain math to them, not me. Because, and it's no lack of them or me, but it can be dicey like that. And sometimes I think, especially with homeschooling, as soon as you figure that out, that is when you outsource that subject. Because I feel like so many people will get frustrated with one subject and feel like, well, we're failing at this one subject. We have to throw in the towel for the whole thing. And that's not the case. There are so many different options online, in person, in your town, like getting a tutor. There are so many options for you if you need to outsource one subject. I mean, you can outsource all of it, but you know what I'm saying? So I feel like that is, and I can't remember what book I read that in, but
is it like about learning styles?
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I know that one was a big one, but I can't remember the name of that book. This is similar.
Yeah. Well, that's what made me think of it when you were talking about that, is just knowing when you get to the point of like, okay, we're not, no matter how much I try to talk to you about this, we're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah.
And it's nobody's fault. And so for a long time when my kids were little, my husband did math with them because they all speak the
Mm-hmm.
same math language and it made sense and they could get through it super quick. Whereas I would spend a long time doing it and it was frustrating for everyone involved. So I feel like as
Yeah.
soon as you get to that point, let that go, and you will feel so much better, instead of like I was holding on for dear life. I have to make this work. I'm the parent that's homeschooling. And as soon as I kind of let that go, which she talked about sanctification, which is a lot of homeschooling, but as soon as I let that
Uh-huh.
go, it was just so much better for everyone. And the other subjects were better because we weren't having this massive hard time with this one subject. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah. I think that that's a lot of people's hang up about homeschooling is they think that you have to do it all. You
yeah.
don't have to do it all. Um, you're just, I think that's, yeah, I think people get so hung up on that. They don't see they don't get the concept of like, it's not the fact that we do it all
Yeah.
at home. It's that we are in control of their education. So when we see a need where it does need to be outsourced because someone could do it better than we do, um, we're able to make that decision. We're not confined to a curriculum of like a private school or a public school or whatever. So
Yeah.
that, just throwing that out there. We don't
Yeah.
do it all. I know y'all
Yeah.
think we do, like we're some kind of superpower people. We're not. And
No.
actually, let's go ahead and debunk this myth right now. We're not patient. I haven't
Yeah.
met one patient homeschool mom. So there's
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Um, okay. And then this one I have not read. So this is one that I have not read yet, but I'm going to recommend it because they were the pioneers of the homeschool movement back in the
Okay.
day.
So it's
Raymond
homegrown
and Dorothy
kids.
Moore.
Okay.
Homegrown Kids, a practical handbook for teaching your children at home.
Okay.
So I don't know everything that's in here. There could be some crazy stuff in here, like you have to wear a denim jumper or something like that. But drive a 15 passenger van. I don't know. There could be stuff in there like that.
Yeah.
Just, spit out the
Well, yeah.
bones, take
Yeah.
what's good. But I
Yeah.
have heard really, really great things about them and just how they paved the way for us today, like to be able to doing this, to be able to do this,
Yes. Yeah.
and that you can do it, and it doesn't. This book was written back in the day when they didn't even have homeschool curriculum, or
Yeah.
if they did, it was coming from like a Becca or Bob Jones or something like that, which is
Yeah.
actually a private school. So, anyways, I still would recommend this, even though I haven't read it. I've heard enough people that I admire talk about this, and this book is kind of hard to come by. So if you see it, you should snag it, and if you don't want it, you could just give it to me because I'm gonna save all of them. I'm gonna rescue all of them. And also, just because y'all know I love this, Kathy Britton, I have your book.
Shout out.
So shout out if you're out there. I have it. Okay, I'm going to talk about two bonus books that are not particularly homeschool driven, but the people who wrote them are homeschoolers. And one of them is Becoming Mom Strong by Heidi St. John. This one, I would really recommend this book, just in general. She is a very gifted speaker, gifted writer. She speaks a lot of truth. And it will hit you right where it hurts.
Yeah.
And
I was gonna say it gets her into hot water
like
sometimes. Really... Yeah.
Yes. She is not afraid to go to the places that need to be gone to.
Yeah.
So, and so it's Becoming Mom Strong by Heidi St. John. How to fight with all that's in you for your family and your faith. So this is homeschool or not. She's going to talk about homeschooling in here a little bit.
Yeah.
But regardless, you need to read this book. And as a mom, be encouraged to fight for your family. Okay, last one. This goes along with kind of what we were talking about earlier. Okay, so this one is Hard is Not the Same Thing as Bad by Abby Halberstadt. Now, what I am going to say is sometimes she comes across as pious might be the word, or like she might have it figured out. I don't think that she means to come across that way. I think that she just kind of has that type of personality. That's just kind of what I've gathered. Yeah. So anyway, she talks in this book about, there's so many things that we complain about all the time, and we treat things that are hard as if it's something bad. We become a victim of our circumstance. And I think what I appreciated about this book, and really her whole thing, like even when she's online, is hard is not the same thing as bad. You might be having, like what we were talking about earlier, is the storm that was my life several years back. Well, God uses all of those hard things as part of our sanctification process, as part of growing us and maturing us. And so I really like that. I really like that statement, that quote of hard is not the same thing as bad. Hard is just hard. And I mean, that's just what it is. It's life. And if we get stuck down in this rut of becoming a victim of our circumstances, whether it's, whatever it is, I mean, we can't really grow very much. And I'm not saying like you can't have a down day. Listen, Rachel gets Marco Polos from me sometimes and the tears are flowing and I'm mad or whatever. But just not becoming a victim of her circumstances. So she's a mother of 10. She's a homeschooling mother of 10. And so she talks a lot about that. Like I think one of the stories is she had a toddler who hated the car seat. And she was like, we know, right? Every time that she would have to do that, she would just want to crumble inside, but she knew she couldn't stop her life. Like they had to do things, and so she said there was just a period of a lot of, I don't even know how many months of just pure screaming in the car, and it was miserable for everybody, I've been there. So I can really, that's just one story she shares. She has some other like family stories, that some hard situations in her life, and but just how not to become a victim of that, but really pour into, your prayer life and the Word of God. And I don't know. I feel like we kind of talked a lot about sanctification today. Maybe we should do an episode.
I think when it comes to homeschooling, I think that's the biggest, like you said already, the biggest misconception is that somehow, like, we have the patience of a saint, or like we know everything. And neither one of us have teaching degrees. Neither one of us have degrees. Let's just put that out there too. This is all learned from hard life experience. Yes, and reading a lot of books. But but there is nothing special about us. There's nothing, and like you said, I haven't met a homeschool mom that has not had hard days, that has not wanted to quit, who has not had hard years, let's be honest. And a lot of these older years are very different than the younger years where you're having lots of fun, and not that we're not having fun now, but it's very different. Like I feel like
different fun.
And I feel like that's parenting. Every time you feel like, oh, I finally have this figured out, you get to a new stage where you have nothing figured out. Now I get to learn it all again.
Right.
And so I think if you go into homeschooling just being humble of like, I don't know, and willing to read books, willing to ask people for advice and listen to them, um, you can just like, you can do it, and you can do it well. And
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, because you and I are on the end, right, with our oldest, we are at the end. We're graduating kids this year, and it was worth it. It was worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Every
Yeah, 100%.
sacrifice, every tear, every hard math lesson, all of that stuff. I would not trade it for anything. Anything.
Stop, Rachel. You're going to make me cry.
But I just like, I want to encourage those people who are sitting and
Yeah.
like maybe in the beginning and it's super overwhelming and frustrating, or you really want to and you're really considering it but maybe not everybody's on board or whatever. Like, just keep pursuing it and keep trying to gain that information and knowledge. And even if it doesn't happen right out of the gate, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, I have known people that have pulled their kid out all the way into high school. Like, there's not a
Mm-hmm.
grade that it's like, if we haven't done it by this point, we're never going
Right.
to do it either, you know? So that's my plug for homeschooling. Just in general. I
Yeah.
don't care which way you do it. Do it what works for your kid, because some kids are going to be different. One program might work for one kid that doesn't work for another kid, you know? And that's one of the beauties of homeschooling. So that's my plug.
Yeah.
Not that
Yeah. I would
anybody
also
needed
say,
it.
oh no, I think what you said was really, really good. I think that what you were saying about like taking advice, I think in the early days, I was just so opinionated. Like I wanted to be the Charlotte Mason person in the beginning. Like I wanted to be hardcore um, but I would, yeah, definitely encourage keeping an open mind. I mean, you're
Mm-hmm.
all good. Everyone goes through their own evolution of like just growing and learning more. In the beginning, you only know what you know. So, one, give yourself some grace with that. You don't expect from yourself to be where like Rachel and I are, because we have so many years of experience and learning what didn't work and what did work, and also what our family needed, each of our
Yeah.
own families. um but I think in the beginning, I remember being so hardcore and so opinionated and so judgmental of people. So where I found freedom is letting that go. So
Yeah.
let that go ahead and let that go, and let people be who they are in their homeschooling journey, and you stay the course of what's right for your family. Um,
Yeah.
and that is where I found freedom, and that is where I feel like the Lord started blessing. Um,
Yeah.
he was blessing us all the way, but I'm saying like
Yeah.
that's where I felt like He really was able to move in our
Yeah.
homeschool. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And I will say, too, so shout out to Rachel, who we had on last week. And if you haven't listened to that episode,
you
that is
should.
that is great
It's really
advice
good.
too that she has in there, along with book recommendations. But I feel like Rachel has done such a good job of, because we did a book club with her before her kids were school age. And I feel like once we started doing that, she started asking a lot of homeschooling questions and really listened to what we were saying. It wasn't just this like, oh, whatever. She took to heart what we were saying. And I feel like she does taking advice so well. I wish I would have been half the advice taker that she is. Because she will text and call and polo and just be like, hey, what are you thinking? What do you think about the situation? Um, and so that will be my last plug that I will say. There are older homeschool moms, right? We are in that realm. Senior moms. I feel like I need to be put out to
Listen,
pasture. But
listen.
all of these gray hairs I have
The
earned, baby.
wisdom is there.
But
I'm just kidding.
but we have not, I don't want to say we have wisdom, but we have a lot of learned
Yeah.
hard trial and error that I would love to pass on to somebody. You know what I mean? If you have a question, go find somebody who is years ahead of you in the game, who kind of homeschools the way you want to homeschool or kind of on the same path that you're doing, and use them as a mentor and somebody to bounce ideas off, and then take their advice. It's not always, you don't always have to take their advice because it's not always going to be right, but they have a wealth of knowledge that like, what am I supposed to do at the end of this? I'm not going to keep teaching kids like a regular teacher, but I have 12 plus years of experience at this point of homeschooling, all different ages. So if you have questions, you can leave them in the comments. You can send us a private message on Instagram. You can like reach out, because there are so many people, and this is how it is too. I can talk to you about homeschooling all day long because it's what I've lived and breathed. And so those people want to talk to you about it too. So that is my final plug, is find somebody who's years ahead of you, who schools like you or how you want to school, and become best friends with that person.
Yeah. Yeah.
The end.
I agree. Very, very good advice. Very good advice. Yeah.
So
I was trying to think back. I don't remember that I really had anybody. I think that's why I read so much, because I didn't really, I had some unhealthy advice that was given to me in the early period. But I think that's why I just dove into people that I wanted to emulate, and that I wanted to, I saw what they had produced. Their kids were grown. Their kids were successful. They were thinkers. They knew how to, they loved learning.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted for my kids. And so those are the people that I've listed here.
Yeah.
That I dove into learning from them through books and blogs. But yeah, I will say, and this will be my last plug, is what you just said about finding someone older and wiser, wiser, that has walked the road, that's going to be honest with you. Because I think a lot in this digital age, there's a lot less looking up to the person ahead of you. And you're just looking at your peers and what your friend is doing, that's not bad, but find someone that's older and wiser. That was good advice.
Well, and
it doesn't
I
have to be us, but
yes. and the other thing is that's not just for homeschooling. That's for
anything.
Mothering. In the Bible, Titus 2 is all about, well, not all about, but there's a part in there that's about women mentoring other women. And in our church this past, not our church, but my church this past year, we have started a program, and I have a Titus 2 mom who's in her 70s. So, grandchildren, and I can't even tell you what an encouragement it is to be able to say, like, I'm struggling with this as a mom, and for her to tell me how her 40-year-old son, her son who's my age, like she walked this with that kid, and that they're okay, like, and just to give encouragement. There is no, I think that's a great point that you made. It's like, we're looking at other people who are in the same boat as us, but none of us can see, outside of where we're going from where we're, we're at right now. So
we're all right here, like,
right. And they've already moved well past that. And so you cannot, like, the wisdom of having an older person, somebody who's just ahead of you, the wisdom that they can give, and the support and the prayers is just, it's immeasurable, the kind of support that gives you. So, okay.
And I would say also, if you're an older mom, be looking to look back behind you? Who can you be pouring into? I feel like that can't be stressed enough either, is don't just like be done with homeschooling or mothering or whatever and be like, I'm going on a cruise ship, which is fine. If you go on a cruise ship, that's fine. But I'm just saying, like, like, don't just check out. I mean, there are people like us that are, you know, wanting someone in front of them to look back and see them. And
well, and I feel like it's such a weird place to be in, is to realize that you are the older mom.
Yeah.
Like, I keep getting asked to like, oh, well, can you talk to this person about this or whatever? And I'm like, I don't feel like qualified. Isn't there someone else? You know, well, you've been doing it the longest. I'm like, really? It feels
all right,
so
Moses.
weird.
Are you making excuses?
I listen, I am wrestling with my age. We're coming up close to the big. I know you've already crossed the big bridge for the 4-0, but I feel like I am marching. Well, I am marching.
It's okay,
there.
Rachel. Like, I'm ahead of you here. Like, I'm telling you, it's okay. You quit caring about so many things. I know. I feel like that's the biggest thing.
I am transitioning to that. I'm just saying, it is kind of like, oh, okay, I'm here now. So the older people have to realize that they are the older people and then start looking backwards. So, love you guys so much for listening. This is probably going to be a long one. But we hope that you have taken some encouragement in some form, whether that's motherhood encouragement or homeschooling encouragement or life encouragement. So you're not alone in whatever situation you're going through. We are super excited about this new season. We didn't really talk about that with Rachel, that episode, but we are really excited about the season. We've got a lot of really fun things planned, some more interviews with other people, and we're just really looking forward to this year. So the next couple of ones will be more geared towards homeschooling and that kind of stuff, but then we'll shift into high gear of just reading books. Although we have been reading.
And there are some great books coming out in the fall.
Well, and I can't wait to talk about what I've been reading in the summer. It has felt weird that I haven't been able to kind of regurgitate all the things that I have read. So anyways, so we're looking forward to that. So thanks for hanging out with us, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye. So,
what is that sound?
What is happening? Okay, could everybody just get your act together? Because